Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Coffee and Conversation, or Cocktails and Conversation, whatever you prefer. This is an exclusive opportunity to hear from our prestigious athletics director. My name is Amy Eichhorst. I'm the Associate Vice President of Alumni and Donor Relations and Executive Director of your Alumni Association. And I'm thrilled to have you join us tonight to celebrate Terp Pride and learn more about the fantastic Maryland Athletics program. I have a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. This is a live broadcast and will be recorded. All attendee microphones have been muted. We have received quite a few questions via the registration portal, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. So now I'm pleased to introduce you to and welcome the person leading our athletics division, the Barry P. Gossett Director of Athletics, Damon Evans.
Amy, it is so great to be here with you this evening. We're going to talk to our fans, our alums, sip on some cocktails, and have a great time.
Have a great time. Awesome. So for those of you who don't know all the details of Damon Evans, he first joined University of Maryland Athletics in December of 2014. It's actually just a month after I came to Maryland, Damon. I beat you here. And actually, it was about 8 years ago. We're about to celebrate our 8-year anniversary.
I love it.
So he was hired at that time to serve as Executive Athletic Director and Chief Financial Officer. He was then named the Barry P. Gossett Director of Athletics in 2018. He oversees a department with 20 varsity sports, 500 student athletes, and a full-time staff of more than 200 people, and an annual budget of $95 million. So in addition to Damon's role here, he's also a member of the NCAA Transformation Committee. So Damon, my first question is about that committee. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
First and foremost, I'm excited to serve on the Transformation Committee. The NCAA is trying to take steps to really reorganize the way we do business. So first and foremost, how do we face the challenges and come up with solutions for those challenges to make this a better environment for our student athletes? Our student athletes are always a priority, so that's what we're going to focus on at the beginning. But we've got to take a look at what is best and what does it mean to be a Division I member? How should we be organized as an association, and what is the right decision-making process to put together to allow us to achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve? So when I was selected this past November to serve this past November to serve on this committee, I was excited. It's a 21-person committee comprised of different individuals around the country, and I just want to represent not only the University of Maryland in the right way, but the Big Ten and our student athletes.
It's really cool that you get to have an impact directly on, like you said, not just ours, but all of Division I student athletes on that committee. So another thing that you might not know about Damon was that he was a student athlete, 4 years as a starter in football, which is just awesome. 3 bowl games you were a part of, pretty cool. And that really makes you well-versed. You had that experience, so now you know what that student experience feels like. Can you tell us, looking back on your time there, compared to what you see the student athlete experience is now, what are some of the changes that you're seeing?
Amy, you have dated me. That is so long ago. And I played a position that they no longer have. And
so it was really long ago.
That's slow wide receiver. You know, I was a possession receiver, but I was very fortunate to go to college and earn a scholarship because it provided me first the opportunity to get an education. And nothing's changed about that. And I still believe today that the most important part of the intercollegiate athletics process is getting an education. And at this institution, which is a top 20 public, the education is paramount, and the earning power of a degree is very, very good. So that process hasn't changed, but it is very different nowadays. Student athletes have more of a voice than they've had in the past. Student athletes should have that voice, and student athletes know what their rights are. But then now we've got all the outside sector. We're dealing with Congress, people on the Hill, we're dealing with the public at large saying, why don't you pay student athletes? Why don't they get a share of the pie? Why are you paying coaches all this money? And then we got to understand it's a different student athlete nowadays. We got to make sure that we understand their needs, the mental health that we're dealing with, all the pressures that come with being a student athlete, social media and so forth. So the experience is very different, but the root of what we do is still embedded in academics.
Awesome, awesome. So we talked a little bit about Georgia, which is another Power 5 conference, but we definitely want to talk about the Big Ten Conference and conference realignment. In fact, we've received a lot of questions about the new schools coming to the conference. And actually, Stuart Banner had asked the question, what are your thoughts on the move of USC and UCLA to the Big Ten? It's a big open question. I know you have a lot to say, so let's hear it.
we supported that move. When this was brought to the forefront, it was really good for us to be able to add two institutions with not only a great athletic pedigree, but their academic pedigree is unbelievable. They are a member of the AAU as well as we are. We wanted to make sure first and foremost that we had the same values, and they bring that value of education to the forefront, student-athlete welfare to the forefront, and then they have the winning tradition. I look forward to taking our student-athletes out to the West Coast. When you think about college athletics, I don't want people just to think about what happens on the fields of play, on the courts and so forth, but what happens with the overall experience of being able to travel to the West Coast, learning what's going on out there. So the addition of those two programs will not only bolster our conference, make us more competitive academically, athletically, but also give our student-athletes some unbelievable opportunities.
So any concerns about the size of it as far as the number of schools that are in the Big Ten or the geography of being so far away? Actually, Thomas Phillips asked a question. In an effort to cut down on travel expenses, do you anticipate scheduling where you might have multiple teams from here playing in California simultaneously? How do you see that going?
I think geography has really, to a certain extent, gone out the window when it comes to conference expansion and how people are realigning. If you take a look at what's going on around the country, is there some concern about it? Obviously, because that's a lot of travel for student athletes. I think when you take a look at the teams, USC and UCLA, those institutions, except when they're playing each other, they're going to have a lot of travel. So we've got to take into account from our end, what is the impact on our student athletes? So to give you some examples of what we're looking at is there may be situations in which we have travel partners when we go out to the West Coast. So I'm going to give an example. Let's say our volleyball team is going out there to play. Maybe Maryland and Penn State, and I know people don't like Penn State, but maybe we travel together and one night we play USC, they play UCLA, and then you flip. So you've cut back on the expenses for both institutions. You're taking your program out there only one time in that particular year. So what we look at is we're going to cut back the number of times our teams have to go out there as it relates to an academic perspective as well as from a financial perspective. And then you might see, as you stated, multiple teams from our institution that play in the same time frame going out there together.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm really excited about having the California teams. I don't know if you knew that we had, well, you probably do, but more than 7,000 Terps living there. So they'll have a chance to see, Maryland playing live, which is going to be really cool. So we promise you some crowds.
Well, I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah.
I remember you always host an event out there.
Yes.
And I've been out there, so I want all of our Terps out on the West Coast to know that we're coming.
Yeah, a lot of energy out in the West Coast for Maryland. So another exciting thing happening is the Big Ten media rights deal. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you see that impacting Maryland?
Absolutely. You think about the Power 5 conferences out there, and we're a member of that Power 5. But we're getting to a Power 2. That Power 2 right now would be the SEC and the Big Ten. And what separates us is not only the competitive level, but also the financial commitment and the money that we're able to generate moving forward. So this deal is unique. It is the largest deal in the history of intercollegiate athletics, which is significant, and we're proud to be a part of that. But I would also say this. While there's a lot of new revenue coming in, it's not as much as people think. There's been some numbers thrown around out there, but this by all means is very impactful for us. So we'll utilize this new revenue to help us provide more things to our student athletes that benefit student athletes, whether it's nutrition, mental health services, academic incentive awards that we can give out now. It is a new 13-year deal. It was originally 15 years. 6 years had expired. Now we added back 4 years. The addition of USC and UCLA gave us some leverage. So it is a significant deal, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of expansion, another change, what do you think about the potential college football playoff expansion?
College football, I like expansion.
Yeah.
I think the more the merrier. 4 teams just doesn't seem like enough. 12 teams give more teams access. And when we're trying to build our program here at the University of Maryland, when I see that 12 out there, I want everyone to know I believe we can get to that mark, and we're going to strive to get there. This will be great. It'll be another source of additional revenue, which will be nice. It will provide more opportunities for student athletes, which is about the overall experience. And then I think it really right-sizes us as far as a playoff for college football. So I'm excited about it. There's still some things to work out, but hopefully the powers that be can get that done sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, talking about the postseason in football, we're coming up on that time. We've got 6 wins, if I'm right about that. 2 more games to go. Where do you see us heading in a bowl game? And I got an email from a member of your team asking about our alumni presence in certain cities. So I think I have some thoughts about where we might be heading. But what's your read of the situation? Where do you think we're going to be?
I'm going to use that old football coach's vernacular. You know, we're going to take one game at a time. But I really actually believe that we have a good opportunity ahead of us. This week we have Ohio State, and that's going to be a very, very tough and challenging game. Yeah. But, you know, that's why you play the games, because you want to give yourselves an opportunity to win. There are a couple bowls out there that we're in play for. If you want to think about the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, that's one. Obviously, the Quick Lane Bowl is one. You know, there's some on the fringes, such as the Music City Bowl. But all of them are in play right now, but we've got to take care of business to get there. What's interesting, we could have 10 teams in the Big Ten that are bowl eligible.
Wow.
And there are only so many bowl slots.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty exciting.
that is exciting, but I want to make sure we get one where our fans would be excited to go to. We have a good alumni base.
Good presence there and a lot of people flying in from around the country.
Exactly. So everybody, please come out when we go to a bowl game.
Yep, you'll hear from me in an email. So definitely a lot of exciting things happening. We're going to be in a bowl game. Again, we just have to wait and see and come to the game, cheer on the Terps. So definitely a lot of exciting things happening in Maryland sports and in the world of collegiate sports. And we got a lot of questions about the expansion of the Big Ten, but we also got even more about name, image, and likeness. I'm assuming that most people tuning in probably know what NIL is, but just in case, can you give a little bit of an overview about NIL and then talk about how we here at Maryland and you and your staff and the athletes here are handling that issue?
Name, image, and likeness came about roughly a year or so ago, and we knew it was coming. It was a snowball coming down the hill, and unfortunately, we tried to put it off too long, and it caused some problems for us. But I want everyone to know that we at the University of Maryland believe in name, image, and likeness. I believe that student athletes should be monetized for the use of their name, image, and likeness, and we want to help them build their brand. So what have we done in this vein? We've gone out and we've partnered with a company called Open Doors. Open Doors is one of the leaders in helping collegiate programs develop marketing tools for student athletes, also help them develop their brand, provide content, provide a platform to disclose their NIL deals. And what's interesting, they actually rated all of our student athletes from a social media perspective.
Really? And
said, here's your value if you go do X, Y, and Z. And they also help them scrub their social media accounts. So name, image, and likeness is a great thing. Some of the other things at the university that we've done, we just hired a director of NIL services. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can. I want to give people a little feel. We've had 313 NIL deals in the past year. The average NIL deal at the University of Maryland is about $4,500. So that's pretty good for our student athletes. We developed a thing called Maryland Marketplace where donors, brands, sponsors can go to, and they can look up our student athletes and they can pitch them NIL deals. We're going to continue to educate and help where we can within the rules and regulations, our student athletes take advantage of something that's really, really good for them.
Yeah. Well, Kirk Bell, who we both know, and Kirk, past president of the Alumni Association, also a Terrapin Club member, he asked a great question. What role do you see Terrapin Club members having in regards to driving NIL donations?
First and foremost, Kirk, send some money in, and we'll put that money towards NIL. But now, what do I see? This is a great question by Kirk, and I appreciate his support, his commitment, his efforts that he's always had towards our university and our athletics program. This is where we've got to have a fine balance, to be very, very candid. You know, we're asking our donors for so much.
Yeah.
We're asking them to give to facilities, to academic programs, and then here along comes NIL. So how do we make sure that we attack this in the right manner where we don't cannibalize ourselves and we don't get donor fatigue? I always tell our donors this. There are collectives that are out there. There's 3 collectives that we formed here at the University of Maryland that are separate from the university. So I want people to understand a collective is a third-party group that's formed by donors, fans, and alums to provide NIL opportunities for student athletes. So what our Terrapin Club members can do, our donors can do, they can donate to those collectives. Some of those collectives are set up as 501c3s, some are set up as limited liability corporations. So to give you an example, we have the Best is Ahead Foundation. That is a 501c3, that is a football collective. Then we have Turtles NIL, which has been set up, and that's for our men's basketball program, a group has set up. And then there's the Hard Shell collective that supports men's lacrosse. So there are a lot of different ways, and I would encourage people to look up those collectives, and that's where you can make those donations.
And the donations at all three places are tax deductible?
You know, I can't remember. I think Turtles NIL has two. I think they might have a limited liability and a 501c3. I know the Best is Ahead is a 501c3, and I can't recall what the Hard Shell is, but my man Tills knows that.
He knows. All right, we'll ask him that too. So thinking about football and thinking about attendance at football games, well, sometimes we have really good students in the end zone, or all the time, right, at least the first half. So a lot of students there, a lot of fans, but there's always room maybe to grow attendance at football games. One of our questions comes from Michael Smagaki, and he said, has the athletic department considered engaging the Smith School of Business to do a marketing strategic plan to boost attendance and interest? So what do you think of that idea?
I'm going to say this. We got some of the best fans in the country. I'm really pleased and excited about the passion that our fans have. I want to thank our student section. Our students have shown up.
Yeah,
they really have. The past 2 years, the students have been absolutely incredible. So thank you. Shout out to our students there. With regard to how do we boost attendance at the games, there are several things that we can do. First and foremost, we need to win. But I know as the athletic director and as the administration, we can't always control what happens on the field. So what can we do outside of that? How can we drive attendance to our events to make it an environment that people enjoy? I want everyone to know our marketing department is working extremely hard. We're looking at all types of things. We go out to schools across the country, and they're working their tails off to try to create ways in which to drive fan attendance. Interesting enough about the Smith School, I met with the dean lately, and we've talked about a partnership and how the Smith School could help us with some of our endeavors. How can we collaborate together? Providev has been great, and how can we do some things that would benefit them? So I'd say stay tuned, because you might see some great things coming.
Yes, that was a good question. He was right on target there, right? Another football question, actually, this is about where football and lacrosse play. So CQ, recently you signed a deal, so congratulations on that. But just wondering, you know, what was it about CQ that you really thought that was the right partner for us?
When you take a look, I wanted this to be more than just a sponsorship deal. A lot of times people want to cut these deals and say, hey, how much money do we get, and then we move on. I wanted something that was going to be mutually beneficial to both entities, and to be partnered with someone that has the same values that we have here in our athletic department, but beyond that at the University of Maryland. And I wanted this to be a deal that benefited all, a holistic approach. So when you think about CQ, it's a company that has its roots here some 70 years back. Interesting fact, Governor McKeldin was their first customer. And so when you take a look at what they do from a community service standpoint, they have a kindness campaign, which we'll get involved in. They have a Good Neighbor Day that we'll work with them on. But they're also going to bring financial literacy courses that benefit our students, as well as financial literacy workshops for our faculty and staff. So the money's important. It's an $11 million guarantee over a 10-year period, with $2.5 million going to our basketball performance center. But it was more than that. It was a holistic approach, and I'm excited to be partnered with such a great organization.
Sounds like a great partner, and actually you segued into my next question, which is about the basketball performance center. I know that we've been talking a long time about that. That was something you thought was really important for the basketball program that other schools had. Can you talk a little bit about what it is, what your plans are, and what the timing is?
Well, it's something that's long overdue, Amy. Our student athletes deserve it. Our coaches deserve it. And when you're trying to compete in this environment, we're one of, I think, maybe only 2 or 3 in the country, schools that don't have this facility. For the rich history and tradition of this basketball program, it's something that we must have. So I want to first thank our donors who have made this possible. We've raised a little over $40 million towards this project, which has been great. And I want to thank someone who name will adorn this building, someone who's a dear friend of mine, someone who's endowed the position that I hold. I'm fortunate to be the Barry P. Gossett Director of Athletics, and I'm proud to say that this is going to be the Barry P. Gossett Basketball Performance Center. And it's going to include everything from practice facility to training room to strength and conditioning to coaches' offices to locker rooms to lounges. It will be first class, and it will be something that when we all take a look back, that will help us continue to build what's so important here, and that's basketball.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned Barry Gossett. He's just amazing, incredible. Barry, I hope you're watching. Thanks for all you do for us here at University of Maryland, and really excited about the Performance Center. So Coach Willard, fairly new coach, a lot of energy. What do you think the outlook is for basketball?
Well, you know what I told him? He's doing everything right, so he's making me look good. But I'm excited about Coach Willard. It's when I sat down and met with him, and I zeroed in on Coach Willard. I watched a lot of Seton Hall basketball. I liked his demeanor on the sideline. I heard a lot of great things. I talked to people like Gary Williams, Coach Williams, about him, and I really looked into his background, and this is what I saw. I saw someone who wants to compete, someone who has the best interest of the student athletes at heart, someone who's had great success, who's won conference championships, who's won both regular season and tournament championships, a great track record, and someone who has an unbelievable drive. So what do I think he'll do? Right now, he's undefeated. Yeah. So I say stay undefeated.
There you go.
I think he's going to really get this basketball program back to where it should be, and that's contending for national championships, Big Ten and national championships. That's what we're about here in basketball. Yep. You know, when I think of lacrosse and programs that have set the standard for us, Gary Williams set the standard in basketball. Lefty Drizel helped to build that standard and that foundation, and all the great players, and he understands that. He said this to me. He calls the former players a fraternity of greatness. He's embraced them all, brought them all back in. He's hired a great staff that understands this area, and he's got a great recruiting class coming. So from where I sit, I'm excited about Coach Willard and really looking forward to see where he takes our program.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun few months watching men's basketball, but also just wanted to ask you about Brenda Frese and women's basketball. Amazing. Where are we headed with them this year?
Brenda is special, just special. You talk about what she's accomplished. You know, the Final Fours, the Elite Eights, the Sweet 16s, the national championship. Brenda Frese is a legend. Let's make no mistake about that. And, you know, some people were concerned because we had some transfers. You know what Brenda does? Everybody just relax. We'll reload, and she's reloaded. She's not scared to play people. Playing South Carolina, the #1 team in the country the other night. We've got Baylor. We've got UConn coming here. That shows you she's ready to go out there and compete. I'm excited about what Brenda's going to do. I always tell people, I don't worry about Brenda Frese because I know she's going to
get that covered.
She's got that covered over here. And she's one of the many great coaches that we have. And I want to remind people of this. There aren't many people in the country that are coaching basketball right now, women's basketball or men's, that can say that they've won a national title.
Yeah. Exciting times.
Oh, very exciting.
So we're going to move. We did football, basketball, and now we're going to talk about lacrosse. And actually, we are going to take a look at a video of some highlights of last year's championship lacrosse season.
On Saturday in the semifinals, Maryland took care of Princeton. A 5-goal win, a game delayed by rain and lightning.
And now we made it through all that. We had the championship.
Maryland can cement its legacy as one of the greatest teams ever. The undefeated meet the undaunted. It's Maryland and Cornell for the national championship.
Be the best. Think about that. In everything you do, right? The rest of your life, you're going to live by, okay, those words. Some things you can't attain it, right? You're always chasing, okay, trying to be the best. Today, you have a tangible opportunity to actually be the best.
Hey, how lucky are we today? How lucky are we today that we get to step on this field doing something that we love because others have paid the sacrifice for us, right? don't forget what today's about. Win or lose this game, it's not about that, right? There's people out there every day putting their lives on the line so we can enjoy a basic fun game, okay? It's more fun when we win. Great day to be a Terp.
Hey, do your job. Do your job, that's it. Every ground ball's coming up us. We're playing for zeros today. Be the best version of yourself. Love you guys.
Jump on them early.
Yep, be the best of 3. 1, 2, 3. Be the best.
Arrest the bend. Gossett unlocked. Maryland picks this one on Cage and scores. Anthony DeMeo. And a rocket by DeMeo. That's 2 in a row. McNaney is there. Half number 1 comes to an end. Oliver over to Wisnauskas, who stings the corner. Wisnauskas had a steam. That's a sweet spot. Instead, feeds inside, and it's Donville. A season for the ages, and a team for all time. Every last ounce of turbo for this Maryland team. Be the best, right? They were better than best. Perfect. The 14th perfect season in the history of Division I men's lacrosse in the NCAA era.
Great day to be a Terp. Let's go.
National Championship MVP.
I can't put into words, man. It's a dream come true. Little kid in me psyched for smiling right now.
What an awesome video, and we are so happy to have with us Coach Tillman tonight. We appreciate you popping in on the conversation I'm having with Damon. For our fans online, I'd just like to formally introduce you to our men's lacrosse coach, John Tillman. Coach Tillman has served as Maryland's head coach for 12 years. He's led the Terps to 9 NCAA Final Fours and 7 national title games. Pretty incredible. He enters his 13th season here at Maryland next year, 2023. But this past year, he led the Terps with an undefeated 18-0 season, capped by the 2022 National Championship. And you saw some of that footage on the video. So, Coach Tillman, I'm just going to turn it over to you. With such a successful season last year, talk a little bit about the team, but also we're interested. We had some questions about recruitment. When you hit the road, I'm assuming that's going to be a little bit easier with the National Championship. But what else do you tell people when you're out there on the road recruiting that makes Maryland special? So whatever you want to share.
Sure, thanks. It was awesome kind of reliving a little bit of the season, and we were just joking. Just seeing the guys celebrate and all the fans celebrate was certainly special to us, and so many great people there to support us on our journey last year, and we were noting our bus drivers there right in the locker room with us celebrating, you know, like, and I love it because everybody did share in the championship, and that's the way you want it to be because you never do it alone. Obviously, we get great support from Damon and President Pines and the administration here, but also, you know, just the fans in the area. They're always with us. The students, our players and their families. So you realize to do it and do it well, you need everybody because you can never do it just by yourself. So it makes it that much sweeter when you have success because you can share it with everybody and realize everybody pitched in. But I think as a coach, we're all cursed a little bit. Not too long after that game, you know, where everybody's celebrating, your mind is thinking, what is next? So, you know, that's Memorial Day, end of May. So in June, you're out on the road not too long after, realizing what is next. You lost a great group like you always do at a place like Maryland, but you're also thinking about who's coming in. And then with us, uniquely, we lost half our staff. So in a way, you're excited because your staff, you know, if you're doing it right, your staff gets new opportunities. So Coach Benson, our offensive coordinator, gets to be a head coach and brings a staff member with him, which is fantastic. And then allows us to bring back somebody like Jake Bernhardt, who obviously his family had so much success here, to come back. So we had to start building the staff again, but also welcome 12 new guys, 12 freshmen. And then the exciting part is seeing their faces and seeing like the new students on campus in late August. And you get to do it all over again. And it's never the same. You know, if you do it about, on average, you're losing about a quarter of your roster. But that's special because you lose guys, but now guys are ready for that new role, maybe being more of a leader, getting more playing time. So you're starting from zero, but hey, let's see how this journey goes. And to me, for college athletes, it's all about the journey. There's personal growth, there's growth in the classroom, there's ups, there's downs, but there's always that, you know, bouncing back, there's support from everybody around, and you really, like, each year is so special and so unique in its own way. So I think all of us get super excited towards the end of August knowing we get to do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, I actually was a college athlete, Division I, Lafayette College, played field hockey, also played lacrosse. Unfortunately, not part of a national championship team, but I just remember that feeling of what it felt like to be part of a team and how much value I got out of that, and it still lives with me today. So really cool experience for your student athletes to have that championship under the belt. Talked a little bit about next year, but as you look at next season, you know, what's on the horizon for your team? What are you most excited about, like when you look at next year?
Yeah, I think, you know, we always play a tough schedule, so there's definitely, you know, you're looking at some of the out-of-conference and in-conference. You know you're going to be challenged to play against the best. So it really forces you to make sure that starting in August, you're preparing every day and utilizing all of your time with the guys, not only to prepare them mentally and physically, but also making sure you're building your team to do their best at the end. And I do think with everything that's going on in the world, there's a lot of challenges. So, you know, having good communication with your leadership and all of your players, super important. You know, the world's complicated today. These kids deal with a lot. So I think you have to be a really good listener as a coach now. You got to be really good at reading body language and just kind of getting a sense of where they are so you can help them maximize their day. You always want to challenge them. And I think that's how you grow. But also, you know, it is a complex world, and you got to be sensitive to making sure they're in a good place and reminding them we're all going to have some days where it's not going to be great, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about that. Because I think that support's critical these days. Yeah,
that's great. Well, those were the questions I had directed to you, but I'd love for you to stay and weigh in on some larger collegiate athlete questions.
Awesome.
But I do want to say we had Damon advertised. We got several hundred people, but then once we added your name to the invite list actually today, so I know that there's a lot of interest in lacrosse. So we do appreciate you being here with us.
Coaches are always they're always the draw. They're the talent.
They're the draw.
We're the behind the scenes.
They're the behind the scene guys. So thank you. You really elevated our numbers tonight. So speaking of other sports, we kind of wanted to just get an update. You know, it's such a great story to tell. You had mentioned that at the break about all the teams that are bowl eligible. So will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to say something about Tillman first. You know, it's interesting. I was listening to him. He was telling me the coaches leave and then the players left. But you know what the one constant is? It's him. And it all starts with the leader. And he's been tremendous for our program. The number of years, you talk about being an AD, and when you don't have to worry about a program, you know, if something goes on in John's program, I know it's going to be handled. And I really like that because from a discipline, from an academic, from an athletic, coaching, all of that, he's just the package and has done a tremendous job. And I'm fortunate to work with him. He is a part of that group of elite coaches that we have here at this institution. So when you start talking about what's going on here with all of our sports programs, and you look no further than what Missy Maharg just did the other day. She captured another Big Ten championship this year. I think it was her 6th Big Ten championship. And then in a shootout, after double overtime against Syracuse, going to a shootout and winning in dramatic fashion and advancing to the Final Four, which will face Northwestern on this Friday, a chance at another national championship. So excited for what she's doing. And he goes by one, not too many people are known by one name. There's Prince, there's Madonna, and there's Sasha. Yep. And Sasha is yet again has our soccer team in a great place, captured yet another Big Ten title this year. And for all those people who didn't think we belonged in the Big Ten, we've only won 47 Big Ten titles since we've been in, and it shows we belong. We're 3rd in the Big Ten behind Ohio State and Michigan, but I'm excited for our soccer program. They open up NCAA tournament play here this Thursday against Fairleigh Dickinson, getting us underway, so I'm excited. They're ranked 8th in the country and have a lot of soccer before them. Volleyball has done some great things in beating number 9 Purdue this year and being highly competitive, but sitting in the chair that I sit in, and I think of people like Tillman and Sasha and Brenda and Missy and Kathy, and the list goes on and on and on. I know that I'm fortunate to be here.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting about soccer. I was on a trip and got diverted through Indianapolis, which I was not happy about. I get to the gate, and the guys, it's Maryland, and they've got the trophy with them. And I'm like, I think this was meant to be this little slight detour I took. So anyway, congratulations to the soccer team too. So we're going to take some audience questions. A question from James Heb IV would like to know, and Coach Tillman, I'll ask you this: are there any plans to build a dedicated lacrosse and maybe soccer stadium?
Do you want to handle that? You want me to handle that?
You know, I'll jump in there.
Okay.
Yes, the answer to that is yes. Coach Tillman and I have worked together. We've moved our lacrosse program over into Gossett, and they've taken over on the bottom where the football team locker space has been. They're in that space now. We're going to renovate that space and bring it up to speed to meet all of their needs, from having their meeting rooms and their lounge and everything. So we worked on that. But upstairs, what we're looking at is doing an expansion, somewhat of an expansion to the top part of Gossett to build coaches' offices. We also want to build a Hall of Fame where we can highlight all the championships, the success, and especially former players, the alums. We want to do that and provide Coach Tillman and his staff the adequate space that they need looking out into CQ Stadium. So we do have plans to do that. That's something that's significant. That's something that this program has earned and is long overdue, and we're committed to doing that. As it relates to soccer, you mentioned that. We do have some plans on the drawing board for soccer as well. It's important that we take a look at a stadium and the right things that meet the needs of our soccer programs, because we have two. We have a legend in Sasha, but we have a new women's coach in Megan, who just had the #1 recruiting class in the Big Ten and number 11 overall in the country. So those are two of many facilities that we are looking at. I want to simply say this: we've got to provide our student athletes and our coaches the necessary resources to be successful, and we're committed to doing that here at the University of Maryland.
And I think going back to the first point, the hardest thing at Maryland to do a dual soccer lacrosse stadium is the weather, because it would make a lot of sense. Certainly, if we were a little farther south, you know, we start practice in January, and if we have a grass stadium, it just isn't conducive. So for us, the practicality of going to grass, I love a great grass field. I think we'd all prefer to play on it, but that means we probably don't get on it until the season's halfway, if not more, over. So it's just a little bit hard here. I think I'd have a tough time dragging our guys out of Sekou Stadium. They love playing there. Same thing with the alums. It's a place that there's so much history and tradition there. It's hard. So I know we've talked about it, and obviously would be great, but it's really not practical. Doing something with the women, that would be a little bit different. But I think for right now, they like where they are. We're certainly proud to play where we are, and we're thankful for it. So we'll keep doing what we're doing where we are.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you might need a facility just to house the trophy, so that might be a good move there. We have a question from Selena Villanueva, who asks, what efforts are in place or being planned to promote diversity and inclusion across every sport?
A great question. It's interesting. We just recently hired a senior level staff member as our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. What the NCAA has had for so many years, you had to designate someone in your department in that role. The sad thing about that, we were designating people who had no experience in that area, didn't know what it means to put together programming and deal with all the things. And it's a significant lift. So we hired Cynthia Edmonds, who is a longtime administrator here at this campus, actually served as the interim VP for diversity and inclusion here at the university. So we got to make sure that we're providing our student athletes an environment that meets their needs. The University of Maryland is so unique and so special because when you take a look at it across the board, we have a diverse student population, probably the most diverse student population in the Big Ten. And so that's exciting, but we got to make sure we meet those students where they are, meet the needs that they have, and we got to understand the differences amongst one another. So there are efforts that we have in place. We do programming, we do education, we collaborate across campus. We're doing it not for just our student athletes, but our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff. But we still have a lot of work to do in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier in our interview, we talked about mental health. And we have a question from Sequoia Austin, who wants to know what resources are coming for the mental health and mental development of student athletes. Are you open to new resources in this area?
Mental health is a challenge not only in athletics, but it's a challenge university-wide. It's a challenge across the country for young people and just people in general. And we got to understand what mental health, we've got to take down all these barriers and these stereotypes. We're all along the mental health spectrum somewhere. And I want to make sure that we're providing the resources for our student athletes and our staff to meet their needs. So what are we doing in this area? We've hired 5 people as mental health experts that work in our department. We've partnered and collaborated across campus. We've also have telehealth, mental health experts that work with us. We've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to meet the needs, but there's still more that we can do in this area, and there's still more that we can learn. We've got to teach our student athletes how to cope. That's a part of it, and we've got to learn more ourselves. One of the things that we've had a lot of our staff do is what you call mental health first aid, and that's something that's important because that'll help you maybe identify some troubles that people are having, student athletes are having, and we're going to have a program where we take our coaches through that as well. So we'll continue to work and invest in mental health because it's that important.
Yeah, definitely that important. Changing gears a little bit, I've heard you say the phrase a lot, One Maryland, and I think I know what that means, but can you share with us what that philosophy is or what that phrase means?
Yeah, I actually coined that phrase when I was fortunate to be selected as the athletic director here. At my press conference, it was interesting. I always looked at Maryland as all these great teams, this great fan base, but what I found was a lot of people being siloed. I'm a basketball fan, I'm a football fan, we're a basketball school, we're this school, we're lacrosse, we're this. We're great in all those. But if we all come together, if we all unite and we operate as one, strength in numbers is unbelievable. I want us out supporting, I want basketball supporting lacrosse, lacrosse supporting gymnastics, gymnastics supporting track and field. I want us all working together and driving in the same direction, understanding that each sport, each department, each unit has different things that it has to do. But when it comes together, when we operate as one, there's nothing that can stop One Maryland. And that's it's about unity. It's about us. It's not about any individual.
Oh, I love that. Super important when you're talking about a team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One more question. Mary Gentile asked, how can athletics support band, dance, and cheer? given their increased demand for their support at athletic events?
It's interesting on that. I always tell people this. When I take a look at our dance team, our cheer team, and band, the Mighty Sound of Maryland, those are the individuals that create the atmosphere at our sporting events. They're the ones who put in a lot of time and effort. I gave a shout out to the band and some of the cheerleaders last year, and I'm gonna do it again. At a time during spring break when we hired Kevin Willard, when they should have been on the beach, we had some of the band members here and some of the cheer squad here. That shows their commitment, and we've got to return that same commitment to them.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure that we're doing things that are right by them. Sue Sherburne, Dr. Sue Sherburne in our department, who is head of our academics and one of our senior leaders in student development and does so many things, she actually used to be the head of the dance team at her previous institution. So she keeps me up to speed on what we need to be doing, but there's more that we can do, and we will do more because those different entities are so vital to our overall success.
Yeah, good. We have a question from Thomas Miller, who asks, what is the single most important issue facing intercollegiate athletics at the university today? So some of it you might have already covered, but
single most
pressing
important issue or pressing issue is we're going to have to really come up with a structure that meets the needs of all of our student athletes and make the public feel comfortable about what we're doing. There's a lot of talk about pay for play right now, making student athletes employees. That totally changes the game for us. What would that look like? So we need to come up with some concepts that we're providing more benefits to student athletes, whether that is in the form of long-term health care, whether that's in the form of postgraduate education, things of that nature. But I will tell you, some of the challenges that coaches face right now, transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, which those two combined have created free agency in sports. Because kids now, a school will come by and say, hey, if you come our way, we'll give you X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to operate in that area in the right manner. But what it's turned is pay to come and pay to stay. And that has been a big challenge for our coaches in our department overall.
Yeah, anything else to add?
Yeah, it's different than it was 10 years ago. And I think we have great coaches here. We're all kind of trying to learn. Damon's keeping us informed of at the top level of what's coming, which helps us a lot. But we're all kind of going into this, a little blind. We've never dealt with NIL before, so it's new, it's different. But I think we try to help each other as best we can, but it's different.
Yeah. Well, we're nearing our time together, and so I just wanted to address, you talked a little bit about the future, but we have a question from Derek Sabedra, who would like to know, where do you see the athletic environment and Maryland athletics in 5 years?
Asking me?
Either one, yeah.
I'm gonna let Tills go. I want to know what Tills wants to see,
in 5 years.
and then I'll jump after that.
No, I think we just continue to do what we do. We have a saying in our program, be the best, which is really anybody that we recruit, we tell them, hey, if you come, we're going to challenge you to be the best person, student, and player you can be. That's what we hold our guys to. We want them to do a lot more than just be a good lacrosse player. Proud of our guys last year. They had the top GPA of any male team, so the guys are backing that up. But I think so many of my peers, same thing. Like, we're not that different than anybody else. I know the standard that Sasha and Missy and Kathy and all teams in our department, they hold them to those high standards too. So I don't see us getting weaker. I see us getting stronger. And obviously, I think we're more and more excited about what's coming. There's a lot of exciting things happening as we learn about some of the new things. We're also getting great support, whether it's facilities and things like that, and that's super exciting for us. So, again, working with young people every day is different, it's challenging, exciting. We go through ups and downs, but the journey, as I mentioned earlier, the journey each year is fantastic. It keeps us young, keeps us exciting. So I think any of the Terp fans and the alums, they got a lot to be looking forward to down the road.
Yeah, good. What do you say?
It's interesting when I take a look at it. I believe that we got to continue to adjust and adapt to an ever-changing environment and position ourselves for growth. And we talk about that a lot in what we do each and every day. So, I don't want to be Blockbuster. Mm-hmm. Blockbuster we all used to go to on Friday night and look, and now Blockbuster doesn't exist. There is one left in Bend, Oregon, and that's a museum. But we've got to become a program that people know that it's going to be a hard-fought battle when you come meet us. I want people to think of Maryland athletics from a national perspective. I want us to be people in the Big Ten talking about, you better watch out for Maryland. So what does that mean? We're going to continue to compete at a high level like Tills does here. We're going to uplift some of those programs that haven't been there. We're going to do everything that we can to position them to have success. We're going to continue to make our alumni base and our fan base proud, and we're going to become a leader in the Big Ten. We're going to become a leader nationally from a total athletics perspective. We got sports that are leading the way right now. We have units that are leading the way. But when it's all said and done, they're going to look back and say, what recipe do they have at the University of Maryland? Because I want to get that, but it's going to be a secret because we're going to keep it under lock and key.
I love that, and that's such a positive way to end. But one more thing, if you could narrow in all that we talked about today, something about the future that gives you great hope.
I'll let you go, Tills.
I think two things. I think we're all, because of the perspective of what's happened, over the last few years, I think we're all grateful. So there's a greater appreciation for each day together. And I think that, everybody values that much more. And the people. Like, we have great buildings, great academics. This area is fantastic. We have a great lacrosse tradition. It's the people that make the difference here. So I just have so much confidence and so much excitement for the future because of the people that we're surrounded by. Whether it's people we work with, it's our students, our families, just the people in the area. That's what makes this place great.
Yeah.
You know what? He summed that up well. I love working here because of the people. And I sincerely mean that, even on the hardest days. I get to work with great people. And when you wake up in the morning and you know you're going to work and people are going to be fighting and pushing in the same direction, it makes me excited about the future. So bricks and mortar are great, but people are what make an organization.
Yeah, and I guess I would say the same thing. That's why I work here. It's because of what a special place Maryland is and because of the people. So thanks to the two people with us tonight. Damon, thanks so much for being here, for your leadership. We're definitely excited, especially after hearing some of your comments about the future of Maryland athletics. And Coach Tillman, the staff here was like, you mean Tills? And I'm like, I'm not that cool. Can I call you Tills now? Do we know each other a little bit?
Okay. You can call me anything you want.
So Tills, really appreciate it. Congratulations on a great season. Can't wait to see what happens next year. To all of you joining us virtually, thank you, and I really look forward to seeing you at one of our virtual events or one of our many upcoming in-person events this fall and next spring. Before you go, we do have a quick poll for you, so please respond to that. And I guess that's it. We're going to wrap up just by saying good night and go Terps.
Go Terps.
Go Terps.